Who doesn't want high-definition TV? Nobody! That's why you bought that big TV in the first place, right? But the thing is, plenty people got that big flat-screen TV for Christmas or their birthday or whatever, but they didn't get an HD cable box to go with it. That means that they're watching this regular TV signal on their big HD TV, and it could look so much better. See, an HD image is 4 times the size of a regular digital TV image. To get true HD, you gotta have Rev TV HD to go along with your HD TV. So here's the deal. You can get a Rev TV HD box today for about as much as you're paying now for your regular digital box. And you'll only pay half the cost to access over 100 HD channels with Rev TV HD. You're welcome.
Your HD TV deserves true HD, so upgrade to Rev TV HD today for just $4.99 a month for a limited time from Rev TV. Rev TV HD, how we define TV.
The leader of the opposition blasts government on the apparent delay in bringing a constitutional referendum. Police investigating the circumstances of the country's latest murder in Millennium Gardens. The Chief Justice speaks out on the issue of bail in the wake of the rising murder count and a jazz festival in Paradise next month. We have those stories and more coming up tonight. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and your MB12 starts right now. Joining us. Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis today said a lack of clarity on the constitutional referendum highlights the disorder in the government. Bahamians were supposed to vote on the issue before the end of June, according to Prime Minister Perry Christie. But the minister with responsibility for referenda has said the matter is still under discussion. Dana Smith reports.
The opposition leader said recent comments by National Security Minister Bernard Nottage are an effort to silence the Prime Minister's false promises. Minnis said the government is indecisive and completely lost when it comes to a constitutional referendum.
It would appear to me that because they recognize that the Prime Minister was making so many missteps, that this is a way to silence him because he made too many missteps. So Nottage, whose portfolio this falls under, is finally speaking and making the statements with respect to the referendum and silencing the Prime Minister, who had made missteps and false promises.
Despite the Prime Minister's promise that a constitutional referendum to address gender inequality would take place before the end of June, Nottage said this week details are still being discussed. He also indicated no final date has been determined for the vote. The referendum's expected postponement for the third time is just the latest in a string of delays by the government. The gambling referendum was delayed back in 2012 amid confusion over the process, and the July 1st web shop taxation, as was announced by Tourism Minister Obi Wilchcombe, has been branded unrealistic by the State Minister of Legal Affairs. The public still doesn't know when exactly value-added tax will come into effect, and constitutional bills were set to come to Parliament before the end of 2013 and pass by February 2014, but no such bills have come to light. Minnis said the contradictory statements by Nottage and the Prime Minister, in addition to other policy delays, only show the government is just as lost as missing Malaysian Flight 370, whose plight has been highlighted in international media reports.
So the government, to me, is coming across as very, very, very indecisive, not focused, disorganized, disjointed, completely lost. And they're somehow reminding me in terms of their loss. They're reminding me of the Malaysian airline that's lost and the entire world is looking for it.
Minnis also accused cabinet ministers of often speaking independently and contravening statements by the Prime Minister. With this, quote, disorder in the government, Minnis explained the Christie administration is not only confused about the constitutional referendum, but also its governance.
I think the government has confused everything. They've confused themselves. They've made promises that they cannot adhere to, and I think they're still fighting with these promises.
Minnis said Nottage has never spoken on the constitutional referendum before, and now, as the minister with responsibility for referenda, is effectively putting a gag order on the Prime Minister.
I think what happened is they've decided to put a gag order on the Prime Minister, who's been making a lot of misstatements throughout. So that gag order, now the minister in charge of the referendum is speaking. Because we can't believe what the Prime Minister say. The Prime Minister has made many promises and all have been broken. So presumably the minister now who has the responsibility, because the Prime Minister cannot control his 20-odd mini Prime Ministers.
Minnis said the Bahamian people have lost confidence in the government, and if an election were called tomorrow, he claimed the PLP would lose by a landslide. Reporting for NB12, I'm Dana Smith.
Well, police are appealing to members of the public for information regarding the country's latest murder in Millennium Gardens early this morning. The first in a series of shooting incidents that kept police busy overnight. It began in Millennium Gardens when police say they were called to the scene shortly after midnight. Head of the Central Detective Unit, Superintendent Paul Roll, was on scene telling NB12 the circumstances surrounding the fatal shooting.
These two males had arrived here on a motorcycle to bring some food for a young lady, and they were sitting outside waiting when a lone male walked up to this man, and we don't know what took place. We believe the assailant just produced a weapon and discharged several shots in the direction of these men.
When NB12 arrived on the scene, the murder victim, whose identity has not yet been released, was laying face up in the grass near the motorbike he and his friend arrived on. Now police are trying to determine what prompted the shooting, something Roll says he is very concerned about.
It's even more concerning when persons without any kind of provocation are prepared to use these firearms in the way in which that Millennium Gardens incident took place. The persons were just standing there and someone just walked up to them and indiscriminately, I call it, because they didn't just shoot one, he just shot both of these persons, and not only once, but you document multiple times. And that is very callous.
As that scene was unfolding in Millennium Gardens, Roll says police were also called to the scene of a shooting at a party off Cowpen Road. Police say some people arrived at the party in a white Cadillac Escalade. However, they were denied access. That's when one of the persons opened fire, wounding two people. One of those injured was a prison officer, the other a 19-year-old man. Reports are the party was held in celebration of one of the new police officers who graduated on Monday. Roll says police are following significant leads.
And we believe, though, that the suspects reside in Pinewood, at least one of them. We believe he resides in Pinewood, but he's not in custody yet. He'll be before the day is out, though.
You know you're looking for him?
Yeah. We just want to make sure that he knows that we know before I put him in the domain. And so if he is smart and watches the news, he'll come in. If he doesn't come in, then we'll go and get him.
Police initially reported that 3 people were shot in the Cowpen Road incident. However, Roll says the third person in that count was actually a suspect in a police-involved shooting that took place around the same time the party shooting was unfolding. That incident occurred in the area of Hampshire Street during an attempted armed robbery. An off-duty officer attached to the SWAT unit arrived at his friend's Cable Beach home when he was confronted by an armed man who demanded cash. The officer handed over his cash, but the suspect was reportedly not pleased with the amount and proceeded to ask the second man for his cash. Again, police say the alleged assailant was disappointed with the amount and attempted to shoot the officer. He missed, and that's when police say the officer drew his gun and fired, hitting the suspect several times. The suspect fled and escaped in a vehicle waiting nearby. Police say the suspect believed he was in the clear until he turned up at the hospital for treatment and was met by officers of the Firearms Tracing and Investigation Unit.
They arrested This is a 32-year-old male that was taken into custody along with a female immigration officer who was driving the vehicle at the time. We were later able to recover the cash that was taken, as well as a ski mask that we believe the culprit used in this robbery, as well as the firearm.
Roll says he believes all suspects involved in the attempted armed robbery are now in police custody. Police continue to appeal to members of the public to use the criminal justice system to resolve issues rather than taking matters into their own hands. Well, Roll this evening telling NB12 that a 28-year-old Pinewood Gardens man was taken into custody around noon in connection with the Cowpen Road shooting, and another man turned himself in around 2 p.m. in connection with the same shooting. And as the homicide count continues to climb, Chief Justice Sir Michael Barnett is responding to National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage's recent suggestion that the rate of homicides in this country would decline if people charged with serious crimes are denied bail. Sir Michael says all judges are bothered by the number of accused murderers who are released on bail simply because the state has not been able to try them within a reasonable time. Vonique Toot reports.
Chief Justice Sir Michael Barnett is once again speaking out on the bail issue amid renewed concerns over violent offenders being granted bail. He told NB12 he strongly doubts any judge would willingly or recklessly put an accused person believed to be dangerous back on our streets. He also asserted the government can never take away the discretion a judge has to refuse or grant bail.
There's no legislation that you could pass that will ever take away that, or even ought to take away, the judge's discretion in the matter. At the end of the day, the judge has to have the discretion because he always has to balance the presumption of innocence, the constitutional right to a fair trial within a reasonable time, with the need for the society to be protected against dangerous persons. And the only person who can make that judgment is not the Parliament, not the police, but the judge.
The Chief Justice was responding to widespread concern fueled by the granting of bail to violent offenders. Police Commissioner Alison Greenslade recently lamented the number of repeat offenders being granted bail, while National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage said the homicide rate would decline if people charged with serious crimes are denied bail. Sir Michael says while bail has always been a vexing issue, judges are constantly performing a balancing act of rights.
But we are very conscious of what goes on in this society. We're very conscious of the fact that there are a lot of persons who are on bail who do commit offenses while on bail. We're not ignorant of that. We see it. And I assure you that I don't think any of my colleagues willingly, wantingly, recklessly put people who they know to be dangerous on the street. If they do so, they believe that's the right decision to make.
The Chief Justice says the argument that accused murderers should not be granted bail is a powerful one. In fact, he revealed they are bothered by the number of accused murderers granted bail because they weren't tried in a reasonable amount of time.
There ought to be few instances where a person is released on bail simply because the state, the state, the courts, and all involved with the administration of justice have not been able to try the person within a reasonable time. It bothers all of us, and that is why we all have to take steps to ensure that persons who have been accused of offenses have their matters heard within a reasonable time. That's a right guaranteed by the Constitution.
He says weaknesses in the system can be attributed to both lawyers who often come to court unprepared and judges who sometimes take too long to write judgments or allow matters to be dragged on.
I think it's absolutely outrageous that a matter in the magistrate's court should take 3 years to be resolved. Magistrate's courts are summary courts. The matter should be dealt with summarily, quickly. There's really no compelling reason why some matters in the Supreme Court ought not be tried or not be considered more expeditiously. Some issues are very simple and straightforward.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
Police on Eleuthera today investigating a traffic fatality in Palmetto Point that left a pedestrian dead. According to police reports, the incident occurred around 7 yesterday evening when a man was walking along Queens Highway in Palmetto Point. Police say that's when he was struck by a Bluebird vehicle traveling along the same route. The victim, whose identity has not yet been released, was pronounced dead on the scene. And a 70-year-old fugitive from the United States is pending deportation to the U.S. after he was taken into police custody on Exuma. Looms Wheeler of Kissimmee, Florida, was wanted by the Osceola County Sheriff's Office after he reportedly cut off his GPS monitor and left his residence in Florida back in September 2013. The Sheriff's Office indicates Wheeler was being monitored for numerous sexual offenses against children. Well, officers of the Drug Enforcement Unit were acting on intelligence last night when they arrested Wheeler in Georgetown, Exuma. Police say he is wanted for 9 counts of capital sexual battery, 4 counts of lewd and lascivious conduct, and 3 counts of sexual performance by a child. Wheeler is presently being held in breach of the Immigration Act and is facing deportation.